sides. Get that for $7.49 each. Don't miss the Horicon Brat Fry on Saturday the 19th from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. and the Barbecue Shack Smokehouse Specials in Fox Lake that same day. Leroy Meats, your old-fashioned meat market with locations in Fox Lake, Horicon, and Ripon.
9 minutes after 11 o'clock, at your hometown station, 95.3 WBEV. The following is a paid program. Advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Beaver Dam Unified School District, not WBEV or Good Karma Brands. We go to the Daily Dodge TV studio at 100 Bill McCullum Way. Here's Wade Bates.
All right, thank you very much, Jeff Hall. I appreciate your efforts up there in the Global Media Center, and we drop down to the Daily Dodge TV studio. You can watch us live on YouTube with Daily Dodge TV, or just listen here on 95.3 WBEV. And we are proud once again to bring in Mark DiStefano, the superintendent of the Beaver Dam Unified School District, as we have. Mark, 6 weeks left of the school year? Somewhere around that?
Yeah, something like that. I get in denial. I just wish it would go all year round. No, kidding.
Can we start that rumor chatter? That
why not?
Was proposing
why not?
A 52-week school year?
Would I get a little thumbs up or heart emojis for that one? Or
probably
no?
Would. No, but for real though, you say it every year, but the year just does fly by.
It flies, and the spring just. That's like a sprint. There's so many things going on, and. I know the kids are probably going to get excited, but they don't officially start to get the that itch until probably May. So we got a couple more weeks, and then it starts to get a little dynamic.
Some districts are on spring break this week. That's a sprint to the finish.
Yeah, that is. We usually try to split the difference between the Christmas holiday break over winter and end of the school year, and then and nowadays school districts have to really balance out with testing. Too, there's multiple tests at multiple levels that are required.
Right now.
It is testing season, so schools try to dance around that a little bit and find the sweet spot. But yeah, it works out. Our kids already had their spring break, and they're fully focused on all the other wonderful things going on and getting ready to have a great, strong finish of the school year.
I did have somebody ask about that. There are just, can you talk about the testing and how that works a little
Sure.
bit? Because, some freshmen and sophomores taking pre-ACTs, there's forward exams,
Yep.
There's a bunch of different things. And this is just kind of the time of the year where most of them mandated by the state and things like that. Just this is that time of year where kids are taking tests.
Yeah, a lot of tests. And I think, if we go back a little bit just for context, for most of us, when we think about testing season, you probably had one test. It probably lasted a day and a half or two, depending on the age of our listeners. And then that happened at the elementary level, and then at the secondary level at the high school, there was really just one. Okay, and that was the ACT, and that was optional, right? So that was a very genuine assessment. Students that were interested in going to a four-year university would take the ACT, and that's where you got your averages and your performances. And kids that weren't going to go that path, they didn't have to take that. We would always offer other tests, ASVAB assessment for those interested in the military. There are other testing opportunities for other vocational related interests. But now it's a little bit different, and I don't think there's anything wrong with maybe the spirit or the intent. I don't think we're really doing our due diligence or our best as a state as to how we go about the testing process. But we're all playing the same game, so all schools have to prepare for that. So at the elementary level, really starting in the third grade. And it's really third through eighth. Our students are taking the forward test, if you will. So that's what's going on right now. They've been testing for the last few weeks. Most of our schools and our kiddos are finishing up or have finished up this week, and then we kind of get into some of the other makeups because if you missed, you still got to take it. And our high school students, it really kicks off. A few weeks ago, they would have had the ACT test, and then after that, they had the pre-ACT assessments. And that doesn't matter if you're looking to go to college or not. You take that ACT assessment, and that's the testing suite from the state required piece. And then the other really kind of known obligation that I would say, maybe with the exception of a very, very small handful of schools, because of the interventions and supports we're obligated to provide, we do a really good job, and schools do more of progress monitoring assessments. So we get blasted every once in a while from families. All schools do. Like they're testing too much, right? And that's because we do progress monitoring assessments. So we're doing an initial assessment in the fall. We do tests in the winter, and then again in the spring. And most of those are really more dipstick-esque in that they don't burn a ton of time. It's not like is invasive into the schedule as like forward testing or the ACT suite. But kids do get, they get tested a lot. But if we think about the purpose of it and really the testing that we do internally, the forward and the ACT wind up being more kind of autopsy tests because there isn't much you can do about it in the current year. But those other progress monitoring assessments that we do, we use that to inform our practices and make sure we're, doing our best to adjust our supports to help all of our students be successful. So that's that piece, and those are the state required tests. And the other thing that kicks off here in a couple of weeks, the beginning of May, is AP testing. So AP advanced placement tests, right? Those are college courses essentially through the College Board, and we've got really, really good engagement again this year in that. So we have 333 enrollments in AP courses this year. So we'll have 333 AP tests taken by our students. So if you look at that and the total number of kids that are taking it, that means that over 20% of our kids at the school in any given year are taking advanced placement courses. And if you look at just juniors and seniors, which is typically where most of those courses are being taken by juniors and seniors, that's over 30%. So over 30% of our students, juniors and seniors, are taking advanced placement courses. And those are just great. Even if you're not going to a four-year college, those are great courses. They're rigorous. And our school has a tradition of doing well, and our kids really testing well on those AP tests. So we see AP success rates very high, and that's a tip of the hat to not just the students and their talent, but really the staff and how they prepare and study and professionally develop to make sure they're setting kids up for success. So that testing season starts in May, and that runs for a few weeks as well. So lots of tests.
There's lots of tests. It's part of education is the tests. Anything else going on academic-wise that you wanted to hit on here today?
Yeah. I really wanted to focus on the testing piece and the focus. And I'll tell you what's really impressive, though, is how even, after those tests or as we kind of close out some of those assessments, our teachers remain remarkably focused and the kids remarkably engaged. And we were kind of joking a little bit at the beginning, right? Like once you get into May or later in May, people start to really maybe look outside and want to be in those 70 and sunny days, maybe outside of a classroom. But generally speaking, we take pride in making sure we finish strong and take advantage of every moment we have with kids.
I tell my kids that all the time, Mark. I said, finish up strong.
Yeah.
If you feel like
how's that work?
I say if you feel like you're getting like somebody's lightning load a little bit to the end, say, I want to be educated to the last bell of the last day of the school. So
yeah,
and they took their test too, and their whole goal is to beat me on the ACT.
That's good. And I'm not going to ask you about your ACT performance.
I had a 23. I'm not ashamed of it.
Yeah, there's nothing. That's good.
That was back in 1994.
Yeah,
1993. So
well, and some kids just really struggle with the testing environment too, which is different. I mean, you can be a wonderful, positive, productive citizen and struggle in the testing setting. So how that transfer happens. So testing is important context. It's not everything. It happens to be one of those things that people can tangibly see and either celebrate or pass judgment. Whatever that is, but it is just one piece of the puzzle, but it's a big piece, and we spend a lot of time on it.
It is, and also there's lots of stuff as we head down the home stretch of the school year, activities, and spring athletics are getting going. They've gotten games in, it's just been uncomfortable for fans and kids, because it's been cold, but not enough to move a lot of stuff. So they've gotten stuff in that way, and activities wise too. There's been a lot of things going on both in and outside the buildings.
Yeah, we've been really fortunate to be able to get as many events in, I think, as we have. And you're right. I mean, there have been some borderline games just from a comfortability standpoint, but I think I was talking with our head softball coach, it must have been a few weeks ago, and it was, I think they got in 3 games the first week of March.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time that's ever happened. So that's good. I mean, it's good for the kids to get out there and compete. And what really helps when they're able to do that is it helps keep the balance in the schedule, right? So they don't have to have this truncated extreme schedule the last 2-3 weeks of the year where they're it's really starting to put pressure on them academically too, because they've got a lot of games in 1 week. But it's been good. And what's great about our high school is we've got 52 different offerings for kids between academics and athletics. So between our co-curriculars and our athletics. So there's so many opportunities to be engaged, and I've really been proud of our kids' engagement. Gerber and the high school staff have done a great job of doing that. The middle school has really kind of stepped up their game and really encouraged and gotten more engagement. So we're just really, really proud of our kids participating in those events. And there seems to be a lot of really positive, genuine energy around that. I know you guys in your coverage, obviously you cover a lot of the sports, and that's great. It's a wonderful resource for our families and extended families to be able to join in the talents and the things that our kids are doing. But it's absolutely remarkable. And the activities, we've got a lot of stuff coming up. May 1st, the FFA plant sale. We've got a pancake breakfast coming up with FFA, their awards. Key Club. I mean, we could do a whole session. You should probably get them in. Yeah. Make a note of that. Get in the Key Club leadership. Okay. Beaver Dam High School has got unbelievable attendance for Key Club. Key Club is basically the high school version of Kiwanis, if you will, but it's a student service organization. And we have multiple people on our Beaver Dam High School Key Club that are state leaders for that organization. It's really a remarkable program, and we're even now involving even younger students in K Kids. So, but that takes staff taking the time to be willing to serve as a mentor or advisor, and that's just a genuine interest of our kids. Sometimes I think we sell this generation short. Kind of shame on us as adults. These kids in this generation are totally engaged. They're super tuned into politics. And they really embrace the concept of citizenship. Now, sure, everybody's got a story about the one kid that was rude at the supermarket or some other situation that they saw or witnessed. But as a whole, really, really proud of this generation, and really a promising generation, I think, because of their engagement as citizens. And again, their interest to give back, super powerful. I mean, really, really powerful. No, they're going to take care of us, Wade.
Are they?
Yeah, they're going to take care of us.
Closer and closer to that every day. My children ask me, Dad, so how much money are you going to leave me when you're gone? I get that question.
Yeah,
there's so many different opportunities. I think we had opportunities as well, but I don't think you were exposed to as many opportunities as what you have now. Whether they learn about things through social media,
yeah,
or they learn about things through. Because I get a lot of questions that my kids ask that they see somewhere about different types of things. About just genuine community service type things and just things in general in life that they want to be involved in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're really, really balanced as a whole, and we can paint broad strokes in a lot of different ways. I mean, and it's okay for us to go off on tangents, Wade. So, I was listening to Thea from Church Health Services talk about some of the programs that they provide, and everybody knows that there's more engagement with supporting mental health than there ever was, right? Every year it seems like that is going up, and people know that some of those services and efforts are provided in our schools. And we talked a little bit about that. Some of that is a reflection of there's just a heightened awareness of some of those things. And the other reality is that, our kids are experiencing less stability in home sometimes, and there's just more frazzlement in society in the world. But I also think, and we can't fully appreciate it, while they're probably more stressed out than they should be, and some of that's our fault because we've probably exposed them too much to technology, and as parents we got them phones too early, or the stuff that we've got on, or letting them watch TV and all that jazz. But they're probably also, while their anxiety levels are up, they're probably developing a resilience that we never had. And it'll be interesting to see how some of that plays out. And I think that every generation probably looks back at the younger generations and passes some sweeping judgments, and there's misconceptions, but that they're exactly that. I think they're misconceptions. And what's interesting, you were talking about like social media or these other things. I mean, I get pretty worked up about some social media
Yeah.
posts because some of it's like pure gaslight, right? And what's funny is, my kids who are actually like tuned into it, particularly my older daughters that are in college, I call them and I'll be like, hey, what do you think of this? And their perspective on things and people doing that, like they've got to read, it's great. They're like, oh, that's not, they're just doing this because of that. Their understanding of that is better than the people who are our age posting on that. It's unbelievable. So I think we can be really proud of this generation, and there's a lot we can do better, no doubt, as schools, as parents, as communities. But there's a lot that those kids are doing well, and we're doing great, and really proud of what's going on in Beaver Dam.
On the athletic side, big meet today at the high school. Or at
Dodge County Invite.
The DCI, as they like to call it. It's Beaver Dam's year to host. Basically, every school in Dodge County that has track is competing in this thing, and it's
awesome.
It's kind of like a county bragging rights type of thing. Just great to see kids that you're competing. You pretty much these kids know a lot of these kids, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Always awesome to be able to host events like that, and it's a great venue. I think people have a good time. We'll just hope that the weather holds so people can really enjoy it. And I think track and field's a great sport. As a coach, it was one of those that I had the privilege of coaching that for a few years, and it was one of those where, we just get the stopwatch out and, yep, okay, you're running and you're not. It wasn't too subjective.
I run if somebody's chasing me with an axe.
Oh, is that?
That's what I would run.
Yeah, that's usually it's a good strategy.
But there's a lot of stuff, like I said, going down the home stretch with this stuff too, and our kids in opportunity, solo ensembles coming up. They had forensics, now it's called speech. I think the play was a great play this year too. So
yeah, a lot of stuff going on. And one other thing before we dive into talking about our School of the Month. I just want to proactively thank all of the sponsors, families, and donors that contribute to local scholarships and opportunities for our seniors. Now, we'll find out officially here in the next month, who all the award winners were. But every year, and you think about our community, and you think about Beaver Dam High School, and the average class size is, between 230 and 270 kids for graduating class, right? Every year. There's between about $350,000 and $400,000 of formal known local scholarships for our students. That's unbelievable. That's remarkable. So a lot of that comes from the Beaver Dam Scholarship Foundation. Then we've got the Beaver Dam High School Scholarship Committee, and there's other local scholarships. But what a remarkable asset, resource, and reflection of the community to make that kind of local investment. We're not even talking about the scholarships our kids are getting from, universities for outstanding academics or other talents. It's just really, really, really powerful. And I just want to thank them in advance for what they've done to allow those gifts to be given. It's unbelievable. And it's grounded. It's there. It's steadfast. It's a fabric, and it's not like, knock on wood, not like it's going away, because people have invested, and there were visionary people who set those things up and then have worked, and people continue to give. So pretty powerful, pretty awesome.
Awesome stuff there. And the School of the Month this month, Wilson Elementary.
Yes, Wilson Elementary is our last official School of the Month this year. So we don't have a School of the Month separately in May. We have one in April, and it's Wilson. And Wilson Elementary, this is its last year as an elementary school. So really, really proud of that staff. They've really done a great job of making sure that this last year has been really, really special for kids, and they've been all in on everything that they've done. And couldn't be more proud. Just making very concerted efforts to make sure that those kids have every experience possible that they could have as elementary students, and with a smaller group. So this year, just under 70 kids at Wilson Elementary this year, and its last season. And the staff have gone out of their way just to do, a couple things, whether it's how they had a concert or an additional family event that they scheduled, things like that, to really make sure that was meaningful for them.
Awesome. So, again, it's one of those schools that's had a legacy here.
How much time have you spent at Wilson Elementary?
I don't know if I've ever been in Wilson, actually inside the building, but I do know that when we first moved here and we were just driving around learning the city of Beaver Dam, my kids were enamored because there's Wilson and there's a school next door to it, St. Stephen's.
Yep.
And they were like enamored that there are 2 playgrounds there.
Yeah.
There's one on this side, one on that side.
Yeah.
Can we go? Can you? What happens if a ball goes over there? And I know that the late great John Mosier lived like right across the street from Wilson Elementary, so he'd always tell Wilson stories too about kids and his time there. So I never have actually been inside Wilson.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of a smaller clone of Lincoln Elementary, so built by the same folks, the same time. Again, just a little bit more of a scaled down version, but built in 1964. And again, while it's not going to serve as a traditional elementary, it's going to be a huge resource and asset for childcare in our community moving forward. And we're also still going to have 4K taking place at Wilson Elementary. So, looking forward to it continuing to serve the community and being a nice, positive part of that neighborhood, a really nice neighborhood. Kind of beautiful, quaint area in Beaver Dam. And, Wilson's got a wonderful storied history, like most of our elementary schools, award-winning in many respects. I think it was 2016 was one of just a handful of federal blue ribbon schools of excellence in the state. At the elementary level that year. So Wilson's got a great storied history, and really pleased with, like I said, what they've done this year, the added investments that they've made with relationships with students and the families, and also the transition. So really neat. They found some nice ways to partner, and May will have a lot of neat opportunities for Wilson students and Washington students to come together, because the Wilson family essentially moves in with the Washington family next year. And so they'll have a lot going on there. And then May 17th, I would encourage folks to mark the date, May 17th, 10 a.m. from 10 to noon. We'll have an open house and kind of a celebration. So, we'll have some historical things out. The rooms will be available. People can walk through, take pictures, visit with staff, see alumni or former staff, grab a piece of cake. So it's not necessarily a formal program, but, it tends to work better if you have kind of an open house and celebration. People can spend 20 minutes when it works out best for them and their schedule. But May 17th from 10 to noon, encourage people to stop out and visit and celebrate Wilson and what it's been as part of our community and what it's going to be moving forward, which, again, is an asset and a resource.
Has Wilson always been like a single section school, or is it, its entire
Yes.
Here?
And I think, there's probably somebody who's listening is probably like, I remember the one year where there's probably was where they maybe had like a bubble section, because I do believe technically, depending on programming, that you could say that they had a room to be able to do that in. But generally, it's been a single section school. But that site is historical. That whole area, you gotta pull back the maps and maybe talk to the likes of Roger Knoll to fully appreciate it. But actually, that site was the site of the very first high school in Beaver Dam, actually, if I recall.
Did not know that.
Yeah. So, and that high school lasted, I want to say it was like 20 or 30 years. So that was built, must have been like late 1800s. Yep. And it looked, I saw pictures of it. Really cool, very stoic, and but it actually started falling apart. Okay. So structure had significant structural issues. So they moved on from that. Then they built the now middle school, which was the high school in the 20s. So they moved away from that. But that area has always been part of kind of the educational fabric, Beaver Dam, that site and location.
I'm going to go look for some pictures of that was the building before that was the original high school in Beaver Dam.
Yeah.
When they built it. It'd be interesting to see how many students have gone through Wilson over the years since it opened up.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of people, went to Wilson, even though it's a smaller school, a lot of them, a huge impact on our community.
Yeah. And the other kind of neat thing that we'll do, and we did this, we've done this with other schools before, but so like at Washington, then one of the pieces with Washington, when it's all said and done, there'll be kind of a nice, some historical celebration of how these two schools started and how they came together. So there'll always be kind of recognition and acknowledgement of the Wilson journey and how that's kind of joined the Washington family. So we'll have that set up as part of the Washington experience.
Sure. No, Mark, we're talking with Mark DeStefano, Superintendent of the Beaver Dam Unified School District here. Let's talk. Opinions expressed on this program are that of the Beaver Dam Unified School District, and not necessarily that of WBEV or Good Karma Brands. You have many opportunities. You have a great website. People can keep update on the project status, with the middle school and the upgrades elsewhere in the district. But I guess I'm going to ask you, can you give us an update here on Daily Dodge TV and 95.3?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, everything's going great. No issues. Everything's perfect. No, it actually is. It's going really, really well. We're very, very pleased with the progress that's been made. There's been a lot of conversations. Obviously, there's just a lot of stuff going on with the market and tariffs and things like that. But as a whole, for us locally on this project, it's been stable, and we've been able to stay focused. Probably spending a little bit more time just being appropriately proactive and strategic about certain considerations relative to some of those dynamics. But as I'll probably mention later on, I think some of that's like. Maybe it makes people feel like they need to take Dramamine. I think I heard that on the radio at some point in time. But, at the end of the day, if you kind of focus and stay a little bit steady and not get caught up on too much of the wins, you'll be just fine. But project's going great. Specifically to the middle school, schematic design drawings were issued. Estimators presented preliminary costs budget a little over a week ago. So, we're right in the wheelhouse, feeling good about the work that we've done so far. So we've had floor plans that have undergone some developments to right size, get feedback, make adjustments. We've had conversations with the city and other relevant agencies. Those will continue to be ongoing. So we're getting into that more like design development phase. We're going to dive into some more details in the project. That includes some presentation on exterior design concepts and materials. So really taking kind of those steps forward, feeling really good about where we're at there. We've got wetland delineation going on. So the DNR was out there. They did their markings. They're always part of the party, as people know. So once we get some final pieces from them, then we can make other adjustments to some of the plan pieces. But things are going well, and budgets are lining up. There's there's not a lot of room for padding per se, but there never is. But we feel really good about where we're sitting on the middle school at this point.
Sure. When you look at that, you mentioned wetland. So basically, what the DNR will come in because there's some wetland area. I still have people ask, where exactly is that? Is that going to be? If you're kind of on, if you get
it's in a swamp.
Yeah, no, no. If you head out, I always get confused. Is it straight out Center Street? Is it no
Spring
Street? If you head out on Spring Street, it's going to be straight out there.
Yeah. So if you're driving, so let's say you're at Uga, right? So no, but if you're driving, south on Spring, right?
Go over the 2 bumps and keep going straight.
Yeah, you go over the 2 bumps, you keep going straight. You'll pass St. Catherine Drexel's, and then you'll see on the right is the chicken hatchery and white plumbing. On the left, there's a white construction building, and then our property begins there, and then there's a cemetery. Our property keeps going all the way out to the Diamond Interchange. So there's about 60 acres in total out there. You can also just drive to the dead end of Lombardi Avenue there and overlook half of it as well. So the majority of it's actually high and not, but there is some wetland and adjacent wetland. It's more adjacent wetland. Sure. It was interesting. There's a lot of people that are like, "Oh, it's right next to Park Creek." No, it's not. It's a full 40 acres. Would that be west of Park Creek? There is not an irrigation ditch. There's a ditch, a farm ditch, basically, that it abuts to, but that's not Park Creek. Park Creek's another 40 over. But yeah, there's some wetlands, but you need places for water to go, and we're in Beaver Dam, everybody. So Dodge County, Horicon Marsh, not too far away. People have been to the Calamus Marsh, right? So Westford. I mean, wetlands are part of the experience. But we're building the school on the hill, so that's around 950 to 975 feet, I think, above sea level, which is essentially where 95% of developments are in this area, right? So it's actually a drumlin, by the way, which is pretty cool. So that's going to go good. There's just a couple areas as it saddles down towards the adjacent wetland that we just need to know where the markings are, so we know where there's going to be natural green space for people to enjoy and we don't mess with, and other areas we can. And what that does is dictates a little bit of like driveways, parking lots, not necessarily all the quote unquote purposeful, usable, instructional, and programming structures, if you will. So, but that's part of the process. Looking forward to that, so we can finalize a site plan and get all those pieces. And so going really, really well. Washington, if you've been around Washington, people know that there's a lot going on there. So we had our phase 1 bid package 2. Working through some of that. Costs are going well, and projects well underway. So they've got footings and foundations in. The walls started to go up today.
Okay.
Which is cool for the first edition. So the new kindergarten rooms, the walls are actually starting to go up today.
When I,
yeah, you bet.
leave today.
Yeah, you bet. So the projected budget really lining up well with our bids, which is great. And then on the financial end of things. We had the initial $27 million from the first bond issuance was invested. It's in CDs and treasuries at both local and non-local banks. So I've done a good job of putting that money where it needs to be, and some of it gets put into essentially accounts so that some accounts you're going to be able to access sooner. It's a little bit more seamless when you're paying the bills, and other accounts that you don't need to access immediately. So 27 was a first borrow, and then we'll look at strategically when we're going to make that next borrow to kind of round out the project. You don't want to just borrow money to borrow money. You want to time that up with your expenses strategically. So we'll continue to monitor that, and our business manager's been talking with our investors on that and making sure that we're being cognizant and, again, very, very good stewards of those investments.
Excellent. So I know people always like to see, when it passes, people like to see shovels in the ground. That's why people always ask about the middle school. And that's going to be interesting to watch too, because it's kind of where it is on 151. You're going to be able to see that thing progress if you go to work every day and you're driving on 151, you'll be able to see it kind of.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. So we anticipate we'll officially break ground there end of the summer, early fall. So we've got some wiggle room on when we officially want to do that and have that that official ceremony per se. We had the groundbreaking at Washington, obviously, about a month ago, and that was a hoot. And we had the kids involved with that and their little hard hats, and a couple of them did a really good job of, when you put the shovel in the ground, you kind of fling the dirt forward.
Sure, yeah.
Well, some of them our kids are so committed. They're always big on following through. They followed through with the fling, and everybody got, dirt on their heads. And so It was great. Yeah, it was an awesome experience. Perfect. But we do have other summer projects going, because if folks remember, the community made this investment. It wasn't just about a new middle school. It wasn't just about renovations and upgrades at Washington. It was about whole-scale improvements, district-wide safety, playgrounds, other enhancements, recreational spaces that the community could use. So a lot going on this summer. Next summer will probably be the heaviest hitter, but there's still a lot going on this summer. We've got playgrounds at Jefferson Elementary and PV, so accessible playgrounds going in there, which would be really, really phenomenal. We've got ADA accessibility improvements at both the high school and Jefferson, just with some pathways and things like that. Safety improvements at the high school and the ESC. A lot of that has to do with pedestrian traffic and then parking lots. And then the softball field, we'll be able to finish that project up hopefully this summer. So if folks remember, back in the day, we did some initial grading to kind of start to stage that for the future opportunity, but we should be able to close the gap on that. And that'll be nice, because then the girls softball team, as well as the community programs and others, are going to be able to have a nice field that actually has bathrooms close by,
correct.
Close by, and other amenities to make sure that people are having the same and appropriate experiences.
And softball's kind of tucked in the corner now, and then also, does that bring the JV and the freshmen to the current varsity field? Will they be moving over there?
Yes,
at some point.
Yeah, essentially. So, and the one's more of a natural experience. So one's going to be more of a turf experience, but. That'll be really nice to have the programs closer together, and whoever the coach is, right? Quinn can decide, how he wants to shift that around, because different fields, different experiences, but essentially, yeah. So we're going to be able to move away from VOTEC, which was never a regulation field in the first place, and have everybody on the high school campus with access to bathrooms and parking, things like that. So we're really looking forward to that, and we hope it gets used a lot in the summer as well.
You'll be able to do a lot of things with those two fields over there. So that'll be interesting. Mark, budget-wise, finance-wise, anything that on the radar that people need to be informed about?
Yeah, well, I just want to, mention the fact, and this kind of ties in, with the I guess the federal context piece too, but, a lot of conversation, obviously, a lot of communities were going through operational referendum. We have not done that. We went through a capital referendum, so that's for, building things or making those capital improvements. But, a lot of conversation because there are a lot of even area districts and what's traditionally been in a region where you wouldn't see operational referendum. A lot of communities went forward with that, and a number of them didn't pass. So, and I know that just that conversation sometimes makes people nervous, and sometimes I hear people say, well, the next thing they're going to do is come at us with an operational referendum. And, sure, those types of things could happen at some point in time, but not any time in the near future, unless the state does something really, really crazy, which then I think communities will step up and tell the state that they need to, get their priorities in line. But, we've positioned ourselves well to be able to mitigate what have proven to be tougher times for schools. We do a really good job of staffing to enrollment. This capital referendum provides us with some key assets and resources to offset some of the draining costs that have pulled away from the classroom. So by being able to take things that have been basically worn down or dilapidated and have been draining resources to be able to, basically create a new, create some relief, because we had some additional burden, in our just maintenance and that side of the operational standpoint. So we feel really good about where we're at. Is it comfortable? Nope. We need to, continue to do work and make strategic adjustments to make sure that we are being the best stewards we can. But we're knock on wood in sound shape. I think the one piece, and I've said this to Mark Bourne, I have the fortune of meeting with legislative leaders throughout the state once a month, and to really help close the gap for communities, not just schools, but for communities. They need to address some of the pieces with the funding for special education throughout the state, and by doing that and finding the right recipe there, they're going to take the burden off of local taxpayers to close the gap. I'm hopeful and optimistic that we'll take a step there. I don't know all the nuances and details of their budget. I respect the service that they provide and realize they've got a lot of decisions to make. But if we can find a way to better fund the things that really costs have gone up exorbitantly, and we don't really have an out. You can't just choose not to provide some of these services. These are legal obligations, as they should be. We've got to find a way to close gap. Otherwise, you're going to wind up with winners and losers, and that's sad. That's sad because, in certain communities, fiscally, they're more conservative, and I respect that, and a lot of times agree with some of the fiscal conservative mindset on a lot of issues. But what happens is when those schools are hurting and they need help, and they go to like an operational referendum and it doesn't pass, then they don't have those resources, and that creates a drain, and they lose programming. But you can be in another county or another part of the state, and anytime they need money, they just ask for more and they get it. So that's not really best for kids, and we want to make sure that we're positioning our kids and our staff to be as successful as they can. So we've got to find something to level out that playing field a little bit. But I know that I think they're hearing it. There's just always a little added politicking going on behind the scenes that we can't fully appreciate, and we just hope at the end of the day, that our kids can be the winners, because that's what it's all about. But our budget here in Beaver Dam is in good standing. We had an outstanding audit. We've been making strategic investments to position ourselves for challenging times. These are challenging times, and we're going to continue to be great stewards.
Excellent with that too. So when it comes to the federal context, there's a lot of stuff going on in education federally and things.
Yeah.
People have a lot of questions about that, and I guess from your perspective, can I kind of talk about anything going on that people may be seeing on the news or things like that? How we're all tied? It all ties together.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I think people should personally, I think when you hear things on the news like that, there's truth to a lot of what's being talked about in the prospect of like eliminating the Department of Education or whatnot. But I think we need to take a deep breath and appreciate and remind ourselves that we're very fortunate to live in the Midwest, and very fortunate to live in Wisconsin, and even more fortunate to live in the Beaver Dam area. And when I say that, like we're just not as volatile, so let's not pretend to be. you always like these big swings on the coast or some of these like huge metropolitan areas. There's kind of a foundational just fabric of how we go about life and business, and we stay steadfast. And when that pendulum swings, like we don't swing as far, right? We stay more centered, more grounded. That's who we are. That's why we live here. So let's just be cautious not to get caught up in the winds of that. I don't think that's really healthy. At the end of the day, if the Department of Education, goes away, it looks like the current administration is looking to do that. I don't know if that's like a victory or a loss. I'm not a big fan of bureaucracy, red tape, wasteful spending, or whatever else. So if that's part of the reason, okay, I can understand the logic of that. But at the end of the day, currently the way it's set up, there's a system to make sure that people are getting resources for really meaningful things. So let's just make sure that if things get quote unquote returned to the state, that the resources get to the kids the way they should. And if there's a way of making that happen that helps us reduce our national debt or whatever other, wasteful things may or may not be happening, then I can understand that, respect that. But at the end of the day, our kids in Beaver Dam are going to get taken care of, and even if we get clipped in the kneecaps on a couple of things, we're going to find a way, and we're going to work with people to make sure that nobody sells our kids short, and they have the resources they need to be successful. So I guess just going back to, look, people are going to hear different things. Or different edicts, or, a lot of that doesn't even apply to us, because when things swung one way, we didn't swing that way either. We stayed grounded in our values as a state and as a community. So when people talk about things swinging another way, a lot of times it doesn't even apply to us necessarily. Certainly we stay tuned in. But let's just remember who we are in the Midwest, and how grounded we are in this area, and I think how balanced our perspectives are a lot of times, and celebrate that and not get caught up in the winds of negative energy.
Sure. And speaking of, giving kids opportunities, it is hiring season right here. And people,
is it?
It is. No, seriously, because if the people are looking to, contribute and such,
Yep.
various, probably in the classroom and support roles, this is the time kind of you're looking ahead.
Yeah, we're excited. So hiring season has officially begun. It's a little bit of more of a, It gets a little bit more drawn out than it used to be back in the day, in the good old days. There was like a 2-month sprint. Now it seems to stretch, but we don't have, knock on wood, currently we don't have a lot of positions open. We have 2 special education positions we're targeting for next year right now that are out on weekend and on our website that are available. One is probably going to be at Prairie View Elementary, which one of the highest performing elementary school within probably 60 miles, by the way. A great place to work, special education position there. And then we also have looked at some of our programming and services, and for a special education position, we're also looking at a potential literacy position. That person would specialize in providing the literacy services to students with IEPs, and really focus on that piece, and allow the other case managers to help support in other ways. So it's proven to be successful. It's a great plan, great resource. So if anybody out there knows a special education teacher in the area or interested in being in the region, I'd encourage them to take a look at the positions. If they have a question, call Tiffany Sponholtz, our Director of Student Services, or Nicole White, our Director of Human Resources. Really, really great opportunities for special education positions, which are a key asset for any school. And we'll have other openings, so check out our website. It's a great place to work, great community to live in, raise your kids, and serve. So looking forward to it.
All right, Mark DeStefano, Superintendent of the Beaver Dam Unified School District. Appreciate you being here today, and maybe we'll see you out at the track, the DCI today.
I will. I plan on walking through.
Can rake
so
the
I'm
long
looking
jump
for it. Yeah, whatever's needed. Maybe throw it. I'll stop by if they let me throw one disc.
All right, appreciate all you doing. Well, we have one more talk this year to this.
We do.
Year?
Yeah, one more in May. So I think it's the 15th. It's 2 days before May 17th, which is the open house and celebration for Wilson Elementary. So
all right,
I'll see you then.
Mark DeStefano, Beaver Dam Unified School District. Appreciate you joining us here on 95.3 WBEV and Daily Dodge TV.
Go Beavers.